Hey guys, this is going to be a video series on how to program in VisualBasic.net. So I'm basically going to be going over the simplest stuff firstly, and if you already know all this, then you can just skip forward. So I'm just going to name this component properties, and let me fix up my working station to how I like it. Okay, no, that can be a little bit smaller or larger. Okay, so I'm basically gonna go over the most basic stuff. I'm gonna add a nice sexy button, add a nice label, not as sexy though, because I mean, it's just a label. I mean, buttons, man, they're pretty awesome. So what we're gonna do for our first bit is whenever our mouse is hovering over the button, we want our label's text to change. So if you go over to your properties panel and you click on the little lightning bolt, which is the events properties or event manager, and you scroll down to mouse hover, and you can double click that, and that'll instantly bring up the code for whenever this action occurs. So then we want to access label 1, because that's what the label's name is, and then the text property, because we want to edit its text. And we're just going to say mouse hovered. And then we're also going to have it whenever our mouse leaves. And I'm just going to save some time and just copy and paste. And whenever our mouse, well, we'll just stick with those. Because I was going to put mouse enter as well, but it'll only be there for a split second until it's counted as a hover. So as soon as we run this, we get our nice little form. And whenever we hover over the button, mouse hovered, and mouse left, mouse hovered, mouse left. So, now basically what this code is doing is that it's saying whenever your mouse is hovered over the button that it's accessing label 1, which is what this is named. And we can put that right there. Now if we rename this, or it would automatically rename it, but occasionally it screws up and you have to rename it yourself. But anyways, it's basically just accessing that component, and it's telling the property text to equal mouse hovered. So now what we can do with that knowledge is we can apply it into other things. First good project, if you're a very beginner, is just a simple text or message box generator. So we're going to need a text box and a button. Text box, there we go. I'm going to put that right there, make it look all nice. So now let's go into our button click event. You can either do this by going over to the events and going to click, or by default you can just double click the button and it goes into the click method. And as you can see, I have 2 errors, and that's because I got rid of my label component, so it's no longer there, so it doesn't know what to access. So I'm just going to delete those. And I can delete the form load because I'm not going to use it. So now what we can do is there's a function called message box. It's just MSG box. And what it does is it basically creates a Windows basic message box. I mean, you can format it to be different types of message boxes, but for this tutorial I'm just going to stick with the most basics of basics. So now what we want to do is make it to where whenever we click this button, that whatever's in this text box will be shown in a message box. So to do this, it's quite simple. You access your text box component, and then you go to its text property. And if you remember from the labels that it would reassign that text, well, since we're editing the text actually while the program's in use, we can just put text like a type, and then whenever we click the button, we get a nice little message box with our form name, or our project name, my bad, that says whatever we put in there. Nothing too fancy, nothing special, but a good little lesson nonetheless, because you learn that you can use these properties in a useful way. You learn about the message box function, and also the button click options. So now what we can do is we can put a checkbox, and I'm going to rename this because I really don't want it to just be checkbox 1 because it wouldn't make any sense. Create message box. So we've renamed our checkbox. So basically, whenever we run the application, it's going to say that, okay, we've got a checkbox here. So when it's the checkbox, it's kind of like a Boolean. It can only be true or false. And with that knowledge, we can also go up here, and there's a checked option, or a checked property, which can be true or false. And you can see when I changed it to true, it checked it. And whenever we actually go into the program, like whenever we debug it or run it, whichever or, we can edit that just by clicking it, just like a normal checkbox. So if we run this, you can see that we can uncheck and check and all that good stuff, but it doesn't do anything, or it doesn't change anything. Sorry, my cat's meowing. Okay. So what we can do is right before this message box, we can go and do an if statement. I'm going to go kill my cat real quick. Okay, sorry about that. So now, if we do an if statement, and basically what that is it's just saying if, like it's an actual question. If checkbox 1 dot checked equals true, then we would put our message box inside of that code. And then if we run this, and we put in here like some more text, and our message box isn't checked, and we hit button, we won't get a message box. But whenever we click it, and we click it, then we will. Because it's going through the if statement and saying, okay, well, it does equal true, then we can do this. Instead of whenever it's unchecked, then it's false, then it can't do that. So, that's some nice little knowledge. So we covered the if statement, message box function, checkboxes, buttons, and text boxes, and some event basics. And I'll create another tutorial shortly after this one, so I will see you guys then.